If you were to ask me if I was a masochist, I would typically tell you no, but that answer gets closer and closer to yes every time I play a Silent Hill game, because I just seem to love getting beat with a stick of pain, frustration, and fear that these games seem to provide. Of course, Silent Hill Origins is no exception, especially being the first game not developed by Team Silent. Silent Hill Origins might be one of the games of all time. It's a prequel to the original Silent Hill, which should already tell you. We're not in for any treats. The story, pointless. The combat, boring. The locations, well, they're alright. But mostly everything about this game just doesn't quite hit the same as the previous titles. And before I start actually explaining the game, I'm assuming you at least know the basic plot of Silent Hill 1, and if you don't, I got you covered. Origins is about Travis the trucker who gets abruptly stopped by Alessa in the middle of the road. Little did Travis know, this was the same night that Dahlia would try to burn her house down with her daughter inside. She is so evil. This leads to Travis being a super civilian and, well, I guess he tried to save Alessa. After that, Travis passes out and ends up in the hospital, cementing his fate in Silent Hill. The moral here is to never help people. Travis should have got right back up in that truck and been on his merry way. Regardless, this leaves Travis to exploring the town, finding out about his past, and stopping God. For the first time, that is. The basic plot is honestly kind of interesting, seeing the burning of Alessa's home and being the one to attempt to save her. The big problem here is that it's a prequel, so unfortunately, we know how everything's going to end up. Apparently the original idea of this game was going to be more of a Resident Evil style horror comedy. Now I know, that would have made a whole lot of Silent Hill fans mad. But honestly, I would have enjoyed it. The goofiness of Resident Evil is one of my favorite things about it, and seeing that translated to a Silent Hill game would have been an interesting take, even if it did butcher the whole series. However, such an idea was tossed, and we were left with an Origin game instead. To actually get into the game, one of the biggest things that Silent Hill is known for is the masterfully written characters and atmosphere and location, but the only thing I know this game for is how dark it is. Just about every room or area you walk into will be pitch black. I was having a hard time seeing with the flashlight on, and to add, they put one of the worst grain filters in existence, which just makes everything harder to see. If you are not searching every inch of a room with a magnifying glass, you are guaranteed to miss an item. What's worse is that most of the locations are actually pretty solid. Emphasis on most. There's the hospital, which is pretty cool, I guess. I mean, same as the first game, so there's nothing really different or unique besides the puzzles, really. But then there's the theater. This place is sick. It's a nice change of pace from the usual type of locations, and you get to explore the ins and outs of a classical theater. The motel is pretty great too, with it having both indoor and outdoor exploration. Unfortunately, for 3 good locations, the trade-off is one abominable one. The sanitarium might as well have been made by Lucifer himself, a criminal mastermind even. It's a mental hospital with 3 floors that all more or less look the same, and you have to traverse it through both the regular and other world. I mean, this one area took me longer than the last 2 combined. Okay, maybe that's not so true, but still, it doesn't help that it's of course still pitch black and impossible to see anything. At least the puzzles are fun. They're a lot different from the other games too. See, Origins introduces mirrors as a way to go back and forth from the regular and other world. This adds a nice new level of depth to the puzzles, even though this is detrimental to the game, which I'll explain later. The puzzles are also a whole lot easier this time around. Usually, you have to be an all-knowing extraterrestrial being to even begin deciphering a Silent Hill puzzle, but here, an average IQ will work just fine. I mean, I was feeling like Captain Noggin every time I completed one. Too bad the combat can't be held to the same praise. Silent Hill Origins combat will either be the most annoying thing ever, or the easiest. A lot of the enemies in this game now have a quick time event if you get grabbed. This just kills the pacing. Now every time I run through a hallway, I have to be worried about my biggest fear, mashing X. Some of the enemies also just feel impossible to get around without killing, namely these skinned cow creatures. They'll put 2 of them in the tightest room ever, and expect you to be fine. The boss fights are no better either, because they are the easiest, most brain-numbing task in the world. Every boss just ends up being stand and unload your most powerful weapon. Half of them can be beat while barely even moving. I was mad at SH4 for having no bosses, but this might be even worse. There is one saving grace though. The monster designs are extremely solid. This here alone is nightmare fuel. And look, there's even a royalty-free pyramid head. The weapons are pretty fun too. They let you use damn near anything as a melee weapon, whether that be a file cabinet, a toaster, or even a TV. Granted, I stuck to the pipes and katanas, but it was still a nice feature to be added. There's no limit to how much you can pick up either, so by the end, I was decked out with all sorts of just weird and unconventional weapons. Now to actually get into the horror and atmosphere, it simply isn't that good. The previous Silent Hill games are pretty scary and always induce the player with a sense of anxiety and fear. You might walk through a door, go down an elevator, or go through a hole, and boom, you're in a world filled with creations your mind can't even comprehend. And Silent Hill Origins, while not gone, it definitely doesn't feel the same. As I mentioned earlier, mirrors are a new feature in Origins that let you traverse back and forth from the other world. This ruins the game. This makes it so the player has full choice and control of whether they want to face the horrors ahead, aka mental preparation. In the previous titles, you would just be thrown into the other world with no previous warning, which made it all the more terrifying. Here you can just say, actually, I'm going back home. I think the mirrors were a great idea and added a lot to the puzzles, but just ruined the vibe of the game in the process. The story and characters don't do this game any favors either. There's just nothing to care about. Travis seems like he has no goal besides getting out of Silent Hill, which is fair. I mean, we see him find out about his past through flashbacks, but it just doesn't hold any weight. Pretty much his mom got mentally ill and his dad decided it was time to leave the world behind, and that's all you need to know. Sorry to explain some of the different locations, but I simply don't care about Travis's backstory. It's not like James or Heather, where what happened in the past is directly affecting them now and serves a purpose. Here it's just there, and by the end, Travis just leaves the town pretty much the same anyway without really learning anything. The supporting cast also isn't anything special, which is sad to say because it's all characters from Silent Hill 1. Alessa disappears after a boss, Dahlia disappears randomly to speak nonsense, Lisa is just super horny, and Kaufman just tells Travis to screw off. The fact that we already know all these characters really doesn't help, but it just feels like they have nothing to do. Now maybe there's some nuance lost on me, but all of it just feels pointless. I will compliment one thing though. Origins seems to go for more of the bad voice acting approach, as in the first two games, and honestly, they didn't do a bad job. Everyone feels sort of eerie and weird, even if they don't really do anything.
You were the one who saved her.
Yeah. She was your daughter? Why did you leave her? Why did no one help? You all left that girl to burn.
So we did.
You know, with whatever Silent Hill game you're playing, at least there's one thing you can usually count on. The soundtrack. Akira Yamaoka comes back from the depths of the Konami barracks to bless this forsaken game. I mean, even Konami knew they had to at least keep Akira if disbanding the rest of Team Silent. Granted, I do feel like the soundtrack doesn't hit as hard as the ones from 2 or 3, but there's still some playlist-worthy tracks. I don't know much about the general consensus of this game, but despite all the less than favorable things in Silent Hill Origins, it still really isn't that bad. It may be pretty annoying at times with the enemies and darkness. The combat may not be anything special, and well, the horror isn't really there either, but damn it did the devs try. I mean, they made some good puzzles and some cool locations, and in my book, well, that's about a C+.